tonight we're going to see the verses from the New Covenant that had to do with the second Exodus. The last study we saw everything that had to do with the Old Covenant. Well, not everything, because now that we're seeing the ones from the New Covenant, we're going to see a few more verses from the Old Covenant that we haven't seen yet, but to pretty much connect everything that we're going to read tonight. But we'll focus mostly on the Brit Hadashah, right? The New Covenant. So in Revelation 12, the whole chapter has to do with the second Exodus. The woman that is mentioned here is the congregation. The 12 stars are the 12 tribes from which that congregation comes out. For remember, the chosen few are 12,000 from each of the 12 tribes. So we have the woman who is of the 12 tribes. The moon, remember, represents the congregation. The sun being the sun of righteousness. Mashiach, the light of the world. The crown, for he made us kings and priests for his father. The fact that she's pregnant has to do with the fact that just like Mashiach was born from a virgin 2,000 years ago, in the literal sense, the last is born from the congregation, who is a virgin. So he's born from a virgin in a spiritual sense, and that birth will be during the resurrection of the two witnesses, one of which is the one who is born here. So going to verse 5, and it says, and she bore a male child who was to shepherd all nations with a rod of iron. If we go to Psalm 2:9, it says, I inscribed for a law. Yahweh has said to me, you are my son. Today I have brought you forth. Regarding this, well, there are a lot of things that I kind of want to say. Remember how Yahweh says to Ephraim that he would put him as a firstborn, make him a firstborn. Or just like Jacob, they were born second, yet Yahweh made them first. It is like the last who comes second, but becomes first by becoming one with Mashiach. So Mashiach, by him coming from a virgin, he was a son of Yahweh from the very beginning. The last, since he comes as the son of men, he becomes a son of Yahweh, just like every single person in this world, through Mashiach, of course. So the point here is just like he told David, he tells the last, you are my son, today I have brought you forth. So he becomes the son, and it is like we are reading here, that she bore a male child who was to shepherd all nations with a rod of iron. Remember that Mashiach said that he is the door and the good shepherd. That represents the first and the last. So he first came as the gate, the door for everyone to be able to enter eternity. And the last comes as the shepherd to give testimony, the first, and show the door so that everyone can go through the testimony. So not only mentions the shepherd, the good shepherd, which refers to the last, as we see in John 10, but it also mentions that he will shepherd the nations. Remember that Mashiach came for the 12 tribes of Israel. That's why he had 12 disciples. The last comes from Joseph, who became the king of the world when he was second in command in Egypt. Egypt being the empire of the moment, so it represented all the nations. Therefore, the fact that Joseph became king there represents how the last, a descendant from Joseph, would shepherd all nations. Yehuda was given kingship over his brothers. Yahushua came from Yehuda. The last comes from Joseph, who was given kingship over the nations. Through first and last, Yahweh rules over Israel, his people, and over all the nations. So the moment when he is resurrected is when he will be born from the congregation. That day, which is all points to 3.5 days after Yom Kippur, so the 13th or the 14th, depending on when they are on the 10th. at the beginning or at the end of the day, is this day. Today I have brought you forth. Ask of me, and I make the nations your inheritance. Right? The nations, as we just saw, he will rule the nations or shepherd the nations. Ask of me, and I make the nations your inheritance, and the ends of the earth your possession. Yahushua came to the beginning, to the east, where the light begins. He came to his people, and his people rejected him. Now he sent to the nations, or Yahweh comes through the last to the nations at the ends of the earth, so they can become his possession. Then he says, break them with a rod of iron. Remember that Mashiach came to bring mercy. The last brings justice, even vengeance. That of Yahweh, of course, by announcing the plagues that Yahweh is sending. So it says, break them with a rod of iron, dash them to pieces like a potter's vessel. So Yahweh is offering this rod to rule the nations. The fact that it's made of iron represents the nations, for remember that the last empire would be a mix of iron and clay, just like Rome was represented by iron, and that is the last, well, the last empire pretty much, because then it will get mixed with the seed of men, as we see in the book of Daniel. Then it says, and now be wise, O sovereigns, be instructed, you rulers of the earth, serve Yahweh with fear and rejoice with trembling. So he who receives the rod is he who represents or will represent Yahweh on this earth. That's why it says, serve Yahweh with fear and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the chosen. So it says, kiss the chosen, but if we were to see it in Aramaic, it would say, kiss the son, because of the word that we find here. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do parallel. Just a second. Right, so it says, yeah, Shakubar. Remember that bar means son in Aramaic. That's why most translations, if I'm not mistaken, say kiss the son. Verse 9, let me see. But this doesn't have the verses. It's verse 7. Here we have Ben. So he uses Ben here for my son, Beni. And then we have Shakubar, or kiss the chosen. Also kiss the son, if that is in Aramaic. Either way, the point or why I wanted to show it is because we just saw how the last becomes the son, and he was chosen for that role, pretty much, or for that mission. Also, remember that Mashiach, when he was betrayed by Yehuda, he was kissed on his cheek, and that is where the high priest would be kissed. The prophet would be kissed on his hand, and the king on his feet. So the three of the ones who Yahweh sends receive a kiss or deserve, or since the three of them represent the covenant, and remember that a kiss is a covenant. So depending on the role or the place that they hold in the kingdom where that kiss would be given. But we have here, kiss the chosen, kiss the son, lest he be enraged. Once again, we see the connection with the last, for he comes with a rod of iron to dash them to pieces like a potter's vessel. It says, rejoice, but with trembling, serve Yahweh with fear. For Mashiach brought mercy, but the last brings vengeance. So that's why, as we see also in Isaiah 63, we see that the last comes to bring the vengeance of Yahweh. He has vengeance in his heart, so he represents that anger of Yahweh, lest he be enraged and you perish in the way. In the way. Remember that Yahushua is the way. The last, like I already said, is the shepherd, right? We saw it around here. Yeah. Who was to shepherd all nations with a rod of iron. So I was just finishing here. He's the son, lest he be enraged and you perish in the way. I repeat, Yahushua is the way. The last is the one bringing the anger of Yahweh as a shepherd. For soon his wrath is to be kindled. Remember that Mashiach is the water of life. The last is the fire. And he was kindled by the first coming. As Mashiach said, when he said that he did not come to bring peace, but pretty much to kindle a fire. So for soon his wrath is to be kindled. Blessed are all those taking refuge in him. So going back here, and she bore a male child who was to shepherd all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught away to Elohim and to his throne. Because Mashiach came as the high priest, the last comes as the king, or even throne. Just like Mashiach is the temple, the last would be the Ark of the Covenant, which is the throne. So, and her child was caught away to Elohim and to his throne. But this verse that comes next is the main one when it comes to this Exodus. It says, and the woman, the congregation, fled into the wilderness. There are many who interpret this chapter, since they don't understand the second coming and don't understand the book of Revelation and the point of writing the book of Revelation, they tend to interpret that the chapter 12 of Revelation refers to Miriam, whom they called Mary, Mashiach, as a virgin, not understanding that everything that fulfills in the literal would fulfill in the spiritual. The story of Miriam giving birth to Mashiach is already written in the good news. So why would Yahweh write it again in the book of Revelation that has to do with things that haven't happened, things that would happen in the future, in our time? For that and many reasons, we understand that it is not talking about the same thing, even though there are parallels, just like everything else in scriptures, from the old covenant to the new covenant. All stories are parallels from each other or from things that would be happening in our time. So remember that Mashiach, when he was born, Herod wanted to kill him. So Joseph had a dream, and he took Miriam and Yahushua to Egypt, right? So obviously we could say they went through the wilderness, but if this was the case that he was talking about Miriam and that time, he would say Egypt, amongst other things. But my point is, John Yahuchanan, who wrote the book of Revelation, was told to write everything that had happened. That is the good news of John. Everything that was happening, those are the letters written by John, and then everything that would happen in the future, and that is the book of Revelation. So in our time, we could say that a few of the verses from the book of Revelation have been fulfilled, pretty much the first 5 chapters, and perhaps a little bit of the 6th chapter. Perhaps, like I said, we're still waiting on certain things to develop in the world to see if that is the case. But everything that is in the book of Revelation has to do with things that would happen after Mashiach. So that is the same case with this chapter. And the woman fled into the wilderness. So we see that when the chosen, the last, resurrects, which is the moment when she has him, she has to flee into the wilderness. Just like Israel went out of Egypt into the wilderness on the 15th of the first month. We already saw that in the previous study, which to them, because of the wrong calendar, was the 15th of the 7th, which nowadays in the true calendar, the 15th of the 7th is called Sukkot, the Feast of Sukkot, a time when the Almighty tells us to go to the wilderness, to the mountains, and and live in Sukkot, right? Or tabernacles. So remember also that when Israel went out of Egypt and they did it on the 15th of the first, thinking that it was the 7th, the first land they reached was called Sukkot. So there are many other parallels that show us that this day in which this will happen is during the Feast of Sukkot. That's why we need to practice every year during that month, the 7th. So, and the woman that is the congregation fled because she's going to be, the enemy will seek the congregation to try and destroy her or put the mark of the beast. And that is why, as we will see, she needs to flee. So, and the woman, the congregation, I repeat, fled into the wilderness. So away from civilization, away from where most people are, away from the cities. And I say that because a lot of people ask me where they can go. Just go away from where most people are, or where you normally are, because that's where people will be looking. And the woman fled into the wilderness where she had a place prepared by Elohim. Remember that Yahushua, when he left, he said that he would go to prepare a place. He said that in the house of his mighty one, there are many places, but he would go and prepare a place. That refers to how when the groom goes with the father to meet the bride, and they decide that they're going to get together. Then they go away for a while, a year or two. And during that time, the groom prepares a house for his future wife to dwell. So Mashiach came to pay with his blood for his bride. Then he went away and he said that he would go to prepare a place. That prepared place clearly fits right here. For he said that there were places already, there were houses, there were mansions in heaven, but he would have to prepare a place for his congregation. So one, that refers to the groom preparing a house for his bride. And second, it refers to how Yahweh was preparing a place for this time of the second Exodus. So it says, where she has a place prepared by Elohim to be nourished there for 1,260 days. So to be nourished there for 1,260 days. 1,260 days is 3.5 years. Those are 3.5 years, which is the same amount of days that the two witnesses prophesied for. So the two witnesses prophesied for 1,260 days. Then they are killed, like I already mentioned. They are resurrected 3.5 days later, which would be pretty much here. And she bore a male child 3.5 days later, which, like I said, that's pretty much on the 14th of the 7th, who was to shepherd all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was cut away to Elohim and to his throne. As we see in Revelation 11, the two witnesses go up, just like Mashiach did, in a cloud. And the woman fled into the wilderness. That will be the 15th of the 7th, the Feast of Sukkot, where she has a place prepared by Elohim. Yahweh will take her eventually to that place. It's not like you are supposed to know the place. I want to make that clear. It's not like the congregation will know the place that was prepared by Elohim. Yahweh will take each and every one after the woman flees, after everyone flees to the mountains, to the wilderness. There, Yahweh will take each and every one to that prepared place. Remember, as we saw in the Old Covenant, Yahweh will go around the world, getting one by one if it's necessary. So it doesn't matter if you're alone or with a group of people. If you are a chosen, Yahweh will take you. So, and the woman fled into the wilderness where she has a place prepared by Elohim to be nourished there 1,260 days. So, like I said, the two witnesses preach for 1,260 days. That's 3.5 years. Then they are killed. They are resurrected. They go up a day after, pretty much. the false Messiah appears, the chosen few flee to the wilderness, and then Yahweh takes them to a place that was prepared for them to be there for another 1,260 days. So we have 3.5 years of the testimony of the two witnesses, which the chosen few need to hear in order for them to be chosen. And then 3.5 years of the chosen few in the prepared place, while the last plagues happen on the earth, the 7 bowls of wrath, which is the last test through which the world has to go. And that is why Yahweh tells the congregation of Philadelphia that he won't allow the congregation to go through it. So why? Because they are taken before that to the prepared place. Let me see something real quick. When he talks to the congregation of the chosen few, the bride, the virgin, the woman of Revelation 12, in John 14:2, it says, "In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you." Right? So we could say, why do you have to prepare anything if there are so many mansions? So there are a couple ways, and we could see that. Like, one is that, yeah, there are many mansions, but now they need to be prepared for us to get there, right? Like, if you may have a house, but you may need to do preparations if you're going to do a party, for instance. But the other is what I was saying regarding how there are many mansions. However, before we get there, before the chosen few get to those mansions in the Father's house, they need to go to a prepared place. That's why Yahushua says there are many mansions. I go to prepare a place for you. This place that he is preparing would be this place prepared by Elohim, right? For the chosen few to be there for 1,260 days and then go to the mansions for eternity. Also, since we are on this, these mansions, remember that our bodies are tents and we're going to be given buildings. So these mansions could very well be the new bodies that we will receive eventually. And like I have said, it is believed that when the angels came down, they rebelled against the Most High and came down to earth. They left their bodies or houses, mansions in heaven. And it is believed that those are the bodies that he is going to give his chosen. In fact, there is a writing, I don't remember what book it was, where he says that the body left by Azazel in heaven would be given to Abraham. So I repeat, there are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. So this place that is prepared by Mashiach, Immanuel, right, Elohim with us, is the place where the chosen few are taken to once the second Exodus happens. And once again, this 1,260 days is what I wanted to see on Revelation, but for some reason it isn't working. Let me see, try again. See Revelation 2. Let's go to 3. Right, so it says, and to the messenger of the assembly of Philadelphia, write, he who is set apart, he who is true, he who has the key of David, he who opens and no one shuts, and shuts and no one opens, says this, I know your work. See, I have set before you an open door, that is Mashiach, and no one is able to shut it, that you have little power, yet have guarded my word, that is the name of Yahushua, according to Revelation 19:13, and have not denied my name, that is Yahweh. So these people, this congregation, Philadelphia, brotherly love, meaning of the name Philadelphia, they have both the name of the Son and the name of the Father. That is the seal of the chosen few, Revelation 7:14. See, I am giving up those of the congregation of Satan who say they are Yahudim and are not, but lie. See, I am making them come and worship before your feet and know that I have loved you. Because, listen, because you have guarded my word, the name of Mashiach, my word of endurance, because he is enduring, waiting for people to repent so that he can save them. So the word is Yahushua, Yahweh saves. I also shall guard you from the hour of trial, which shall come upon all the world, to try those who dwell on the earth. So Yahweh will protect us during the seals and the trumpets, which are judgments against those who claim to believe. That's why first it is a judgment against a fourth, and then against a third, pretty much judging those who follow Samael and those who follow Halel. And then at the end, everything that is left, all the nations, during 3.5 years, during the bowls of wrath. So because you have guarded my word of endurance, Yahushua, I also shall guard you from the hour of trial, which shall come upon all the world to try those who dwell on the earth. So this 1,260 days is pretty much that time of trial from which Yahweh is saving the congregation. That last part, that second half of the last 7 years, for remember that the end would happen during 7 years, called the week of Daniel, Revelation 9, the last week of Daniel. And each half is 3.5 years, which in days is 1,260 days. In Revelation 11, obviously the one right before this one that we're reading, is when the two witnesses appear. They preach for 1,260 days. They die, they resurrect. Then the seventh trumpet sounds. All right. The seventh trumpet sounds right after the resurrection of the two witnesses. Here in Revelation 12, we see what happens from a little bit before the seventh trumpet on, pretty much till the end of those 7 years. So the two witnesses come, and I repeat this one over and over again because for some reason there is a mess in the Christian doctrine. Well, many reasons, I'm sure, regarding well, they call it the rapture. So there are opinions that go from the rapture happening at the beginning of the 7 years to happening at the end of the 7 years. That second one makes no sense at all, because as they are going, they will be coming back for the war of Armageddon. The first part doesn't make any sense either, because the chosen few, those who will be harvested, need to hear the two witnesses, which they preach for 1,260 days, the first half. So obviously those Christians who believe the rapture happens at the half of the last 7 are closer, yet the doctrine of rapture itself is wrong. And sadly, there will be a lot of people surprised when it happens, and it doesn't happen as they expected. And that's why I'm using that term rapture, because rapture, as they know it, won't happen. But my point is that it should be clear when we read the book of Revelation that the harvest, the transformation, will happen at the half of the last 7. Because first there's the teaching of the two witnesses, and then the going to the wilderness, to the prepared place, to be there for another 1,260 days. Those two periods made the 7 years. And like I said, it should be clear when we read Revelation 11 and then Revelation 12. Revelation 11, the two witnesses for 1,260 days. Revelation 12, the second Exodus, going to the prepared place, lasting for 1,260 days. So 7 years. Therefore, the chosen few will be on earth for the seals and the trumpets. Most Christians who do not understand the difference between the few and the many, do not understand the doctrine of the harvest, and therefore they end up making another doctrine which they call the rapture. Most of them don't expect to be here for the seals nor the trumpets at all. They are hoping to be taken away, and then everything will start. Well, they expect to go away and then everything to start right after. But that's not what Scripture says. Scripture says that we would go through tribulation. Doesn't mean that we would be destroyed during the tribulation, for he did not put us to be destroyed in tribulation, but we have to go through it. We have to see it. And it's part of the test as well. So I repeat, and the woman fled into the wilderness where she has a place prepared for by Elohim to be nourished there for 1,260 days. Now, let's go to verse 13 through 16 of the same chapter. And he says, and when the dragon saw that he had been thrown to the earth, remember that once the two witnesses go up, the last is given authority so that he can expel Satan from heaven, finally. So Satan will be coming down to earth right after the resurrection of the two witnesses. This is key to understand everything else that will come in a moment. So the two witnesses go up, Satan comes down. So 3.5 years of the two witnesses preaching, the beast rising, the false prophet as well. But when the false prophet and the beast kill the two witnesses, they go up after the resurrection. Satan comes down and claims to be the Christ. That will be an issue as well for many Christians, because in Christianity, they say the beast is the Antichrist. So when the true Antichrist manifests, many will believe is the true one, because not only will it be very deceitful the way he will manifest himself, but also they would have thought that the Antichrist already came as the beast. And if they are completely fooled or deceived by the enemy, they will believe that the two witnesses were the beast or Antichrist and the false prophet. So once the two witnesses are killed, they will say peace and safety. Then sudden destruction will come upon them, because the true Antichrist will manifest and they will think is the Christ, because they will think that they have killed already the Antichrist and the false prophet, the two witnesses. I hope that's being understood. If not, please ask any question on the chat, and I will get to it as soon as we at least finish with this verses. So, and when the dragon, right, which is kicked out from heaven at the beginning of the second half of the last 7 years, when the two witnesses go up and kick him out, and when the dragon saw that he had been thrown to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. The dragon sees he is not able to kill the male child. In fact, the male child receives authority to kick him out of heaven. So when he realizes he wasn't able to beat the male child, he will go after the woman who gave birth to him, meaning once the dragon, Satan, as the Christ, falls to heaven, and I say like that, right? So because he will claim to be the Christ, and I am using that term, not Messiah. I hope you guys understand why. So when he appears claiming to be the Christ, the first thing he will do is persecute the congregation, those who realize he is not, those who know his true identity, those who rejected him from the very beginning before he even came to the earth. So he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. That is the true congregation, the congregation of the few. And the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle. This is important, because we see this same term in the Exodus, which confirms this is the second Exodus. Now we know that the people of Israel did not fly during the Exodus, right, in a literal sense. But in this case, it is quite possible, not that we may receive, well, I mean, we could if Yahweh wants, but not literal wings. However, the ability to go up, because we will be gathered in the clouds during the 7th trumpet, as we saw, right? Yeah. So it could be, of course, that we will go up in the literal sense, represented by the spiritual sense of what is mentioned in the first Exodus, but we will see that in a bit. So, and the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle. That great eagle represents, we could see it a couple ways. The Ruach HaKodesh, in the, like, with the wings of the Ruach, like the wind will take us up, or the Malach, the Malach of Yahweh, the great eagle, right? Remember that there were 4 creatures around the throne, one with the face of an eagle, face of a man, face of a lion, face of an ox. The eagle represents the malach, the man, obviously the fact that he came as a human, the ox that he came as a servant, and the lion that he came as a king. So the great eagle pretty much represents the malach of Yahweh. And that could mean then that that will be the moment of the transformation when the chosen few, who are the woman, will receive new bodies, the bodies of malachim, so that they can go up into the higher reality and gather with Mashiach. So when the dragon goes after the woman, after she had gone to the wilderness, as we saw in the previous verse, says, and the woman was given two wings of a great eagle, that will be during the transformation, to fly into the wilderness to her place. So once the transformation happens, no matter where each of the chosen few are in the world, they will be gathered and taken to the same place, that place which was prepared, where she's nourished, once again, for time and times and half a time. So we are given a different way of counting time, but still the same amount of time, just like it appears in Daniel 7:25, Daniel 12:7. For a time, times, and half a time. That is, a time is a year. Times, that's 2 years. So we have 3. And half a time, that's half a year. So we have 3.5 years, which is the same as 1,260 days. Let me go to Daniel real quick, 7:25, just to show those two verses. And the 10 horns, those are 10 leaders, are the 10 sovereigns from this reign, the New World Order that they are preparing. They shall rise, and another shall rise after them. That is the beast, the little horn. And it is different from the first ones, and it humbles 3 sovereigns. And it speaks words against the Most High. I repeat, that is the beast, not the Antichrist, as many think. And it wears out the set apart ones of the Most High. He will kill the 2 witnesses. And it intends to change appointed times, right? Like changing Sukkot for Christmas, stuff like that. Changing the calendar, so on and so forth. And the law, right? Because he claims that the law has been abolished. And they are given into its hand for a time and times and half a time. That once again is 3.5 years. That is the time that is given to the beast, as we see also in the book of Revelation, where it says that he is given 42 months. Once again, 42 months is the same as 3.5 years, or time, times, and half a time. Then we go to Daniel 12:7. And I heard a man dressed in linen who was above the waters of the river, and he held up his right hand and his left hand to the heavens and swore by him who lives forever that he would be for an appointed time, appointed times, and half a time. That is 3.5 years once again. And when they have ended scattering the power of the set apart people, then all this shall be accomplished. Shall be completed. And if we were to continue, it says, and from the time that which is continual is taken away, and the abomination that lays waste is set up, this abomination that lays waste, that is the Antichrist, the true Antichrist, the false Messiah, the dragon coming down in a body prepared for him. That is the image of the beast made by the false prophet in Revelation 13. So this abomination that lays waste is that body that the dragon will get into once he is kicked out of heaven. So this right here, and from the time that which is continual is taken away, that is what we see in Daniel 9, when it talks about the half of the last week of Daniel. The half of the last week of Daniel is when that which is continual is taken away, when sacrifices and offering will end, represented by the death of the 2 witnesses as a sacrifice and as an offering. The witness like Moshe, and the witness Eliyahu. So, and from the time that which is continual, the continual sacrifice is taken away, and the abomination that lays waste is set up is 1,290 days. Like I said, there's a difference here, 90 days, 60 days, right? Obviously, a difference of 30 days. That means that the abomination of desolation will rule for 3.5 years and a month. That month is the one we see, and we already saw this, but I just want to make it clear on Hosea 5:7, where it says, they have acted treacherously against Yahweh, for they have brought forth strange children. Now a month shall devour them with their portions. A month. They erroneously write moon because of their interpretation of the calendar, but it says during a month, that is 30 days. All right, so going back to Revelation 12. And the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle to fly into the wilderness to her place where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the presence of the serpent. So the dragon, once he's kicked out of heaven and thrown into the earth, it becomes a serpent, which could be seen as what happened when the serpent appeared to Eve, Chava, and gave her the fruit, or well, convinced her to eat of the fruit of knowledge. And the serpent was cursed to go on its belly, right? Lost her feet, her arms, and I say her because in Spanish, serpent is female. Sorry. So it lost its arms, its feet, and even its wings. Some say that the serpent was the most beautiful creature ever to have been created. It was the only, it is said, that would be able to walk like a human. But when the serpent did what it did, lost all that beauty. And therefore, it is interesting how right now we see that it goes from a dragon to a serpent. And remember that this that we are reading right here happens at the end of the 6,000 years. And remember that the serpent appeared to Chava at the end of the 6th day, right? So when people get the mark of the beast, that is the fulfillment of Adam and Eve eating the fruit of knowledge of evil. And in a way, we could say that when the chosen few accept the witness like Moshe and receive the seal of the living mighty one, the name of the Father and the Son, it is like eating the fruit of knowledge of good. And I'm just saying that because of the different destinies for each of those 2 groups that I mentioned. One will be completely evil, the other one will be completely good. So the woman was given 2 wings, that is the transformation of a great eagle, like a malach, to fly into the wilderness to her place, which was prepared, right? Where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the presence of the serpent. And out of his mouth, the serpent spewed water like a river after the woman. Remember that when Israel came out of Egypt, we went through a sea, the Sea of Reeds, which opened up so that we could go through without getting wet. That represents going into eternity without experiencing death. But the enemy wanted to destroy it with water. Water represents, in this case, is most likely an army that the serpent will send against the congregation. An army that he will send from all the world to try and get the congregation wherever they may be at. But Yahweh will give them the wings of an eagle so that they can go away from the presence of the serpent. In fact, since I mentioned that, let's go to Daniel 9. Listen to this. And after the 62 weeks, Mashiach shall be cut off and have not, right? After the 62 plus 7, right? That is 69 weeks from the decree to build Jerusalem and the temple until Mashiach came. 62 weeks. Mashiach shall be cut off. So he was cut off at the end of 62. For some reason, there are many Christians who interpret this as Mashiach dying in the half of the last week. So 62 and a half. But that's not what the scripture is saying. I want to make that clear because I repeat, there are a lot of Christians who claim that he died in the half of the last week. But we are seeing, and after the 62 weeks are completed, Mashiach shall be cut off and have not. Cut off, that is dying, which is amazing because it was written in the Old Covenant that Mashiach had to die. Still, the Jewish people don't get it, don't accept it, and claim that there is no way that Mashiach had to die, even though they have some opinions in which they believe their Mashiach has to die. So what's the issue there, right? So weird. Well, that's when it comes to Mashiach ben Yosef, but that's another story. If you want to ask, you can do it. So after the 62 weeks, Mashiach shall be cut off and have not, right? The apostasy came right after. And the people of a coming prince, not the prince, but the people, shall destroy the city and the set apart place, right? That was the temple in the year 70. Rome did that. The last, according to Isaiah 63, comes as a Roman, comes from Edom, comes as Paul, right? Shaul, who was a Roman, of Roman citizenship. The last is the prince, but he's not the one who destroys everything. It was the people. And the end of it, listen to this, and the end of it is with a flood. And the end of it is with a flood. Remember how I also have explained how what happened in the year 70 is a representation of what will happen in our time. Remember that the year 70 came 40 years after Mashiach died and resurrected. Just like the end would come 40 jubilees after Mashiach came and resurrected. The year 70 representing the 70th week. The destruction of the temple and Jerusalem as the destruction that is coming to Jerusalem at the end of the week. And the fact that people had to flee in that time, because we are going to see something that had to do with the year 70 and with our time. Yet many Christians believe that it only has to do with the year 70 because they don't understand how prophecies have different fulfillments and how things of the past are also parallels for things that we need to understand in our time, their future. So at the end of it is with a flood. So not only it was like a flood, I'm sure, in the year 70, how everything happened, but you see how it already mentioned the year 70, and then it mentions the end. And the end of it is with a flood, because there's a connection, I repeat, between the end of times and what happened in the year 70. And there are many connections to see why or how it connects. I repeat, 40 years after Mashiach, 40 jubilees after Mashiach. Year 70, 70th week. The destruction of Jerusalem, destruction of Jerusalem. Flee into the mountains, etc. So, and the end of it is with a flood. We just read right here. And out of his mouth, the serpent spewed water like a river after the woman. He wants to send a flood to destroy the woman, but it won't be literal water. At least that's how I believe, because of what we are about to see here. So with a flood, and wastes are decreed, and fighting until the end. And he is the prince, shall confirm a covenant. What covenant? The one that Mashiach made. Mashiach made the new covenant. The prince confirms the covenant. That's why here we see Mashiach the prince. But Mashiach was cut off. So we are left with the prince. which in Hebrew is the Nagid, he who declares. So he comes to declare that the covenant still valid, and he shall confirm. So the covenant had to be firm already. Now he comes to confirm. Mashiach made the new covenant. The prince, the Nagid, confirms the covenant with many. Yahushua said, this is the new covenant with the many, the blood of the new covenant, which is spilled for the many. So here we see, and he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. So we have 1 more week, 7 years after Mashiach was cut off, right? So not 3.5 years, as many think, 7 years. And he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. And in the middle of the week, he shall put an end to slaughtering and meal offering. The middle of the week, 3.5 years, put an end to slaughtering and meal offering, which is when that which is continual will stop. Remember, we read that a moment ago. And on the wing of abominations, he shall lay waste even until the complete end. And that which is decreed is poured on the one who lays waste. This translation is not the best when it comes to this verse, but it should be clear in this verse how the abomination that lays waste, meaning the abomination of desolation, is different than the prince who confirms the covenant, because it's after the prince that the abomination appears, like we are seeing during the middle of the week, right? The 2 witnesses are killed as slaughtering meal offering, as they are translating here. The 2 witnesses are killed in the middle of the week, and then the abomination appears until the end is completed. Hopefully that's clear. I'm going to return to Revelation 12. And out of his mouth, the serpent spewed water like a river after the woman. We saw how he will be like a flood to cause her to be swept away by the river. He will try to send an army to destroy the woman. And the earth helped the woman. Remember, as we have seen in previous studies in the book of Revelation, the sea represents the nations. The earth represents the many who believe. And the trees are the few who not only believe, but also confess with their mouths, because we must give sacrifice of praise, which is the fruit of our lips that confess his name. So, and the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up the river which the dragon had spewed out of his mouth. So in a way, just like the water parted so that we could go through, in this case, the earth will open so that it will swallow the river. And that could be in the literal sense, although I don't think it will be that way, mainly because of what it says here. And the dragon was enraged with the woman, and he went to fight with the remnant of her seed, those who were left. The chosen few are the woman. So those who are left, or the remnant of her seed, are the earth, the many, those who claim to believe but have not confessed. Those guarding the commands of Elohim and possessing the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach. We see that those do not have the word of Yahweh, meaning they don't have the name of the Messiah, which means they have not confessed Mashiach as Savior, and that's why they are not given the wings of an eagle. Instead, they are the ones after whom the serpent will go right after it realizes it cannot destroy the woman. They guard the commands and possess the witness or the testimony of Mashiach, which is the fact that they believe in their heart. So after the serpent is not able to destroy the few, it will go after the many. This is important to understand. After trying to kill the few and not being able, he will go and kill the many. And that will be allowed because they don't have the name for salvation. And therefore, that river most likely will be an army. The earth open its mouth and swallowing that river would represent the many who will have to go through the destruction that the beast is sending. I hope that's understood. Now let's go to 1 Corinthians 10, 1 through 12. Says, "For I do not wish you to be ignorant, brothers, that all our fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea." Right? This representing the immersion. They were immersed in that cloud. They were immersed in that sea, even though they did not get wet. They went through it. So represents how there would be an immersion. We needed to be immersed in water, in Mashiach, who is the water of life. And here, Shaul is explaining how everything that happened is a parallel to understand things that will happen. "For I do not wish you to be ignorant, brothers, that all our fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea, and all were immersed into Moshe in the cloud and in the sea." Into Moshe, meaning into the law, into the covenant, who Moshe represented. And remember that the last is the witness like Moshe, so there is a connection between the first and the second Exodus, of course. "And all ate the same spiritual food, and all drank the same spiritual drink. For they drank of that spiritual rock that followed, and the rock was Mashiach." There was a stone, a rock that would follow them through the 40 years in the desert. The rock that gave them water. And that was something that happened in the literal sense to represent how Mashiach, the cornerstone, the rock, would give us the water of life. "And all drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed, and the rock was Mashiach. However, with most of them, Yahweh was not well pleased, for they were laid low in the wilderness." This is important to understand, because like I just mentioned, there were 10 virgins. Foolish, 5. Prudent, 5. So there were 10 virgins. Remember that we just saw in Revelation 12 about the woman or the virgin, because it actually is represented by Virgo. So even though it says woman, it makes reference to a virgin. The virgin is the true congregation. The whore, the harlot, is the false congregation. The fact that there were 10 virgins represent all the people who will know the true doctrine. But the foolish ones are the ones who do not practice it, who know it but don't follow it. The other 5 are the ones who actually do everything they know so that they can be preserved at the end, for they persevere till the end, and therefore they will be saved. So sadly, because there is a parallel in the past, as we are seeing here, the 10 virgins will go to the mountains, and only 5 will receive the eagle wings, the wings of the great eagle, the transformation during the harvest. That is important to understand. And I say that because it is possible that, let's say, a group of 10 people go to the mountains waiting salvation, and throughout those 7 days of Sukkot, for instance, 5 of them die, or 5 of them get lost, or whatever. That would be because they are the foolish virgins. But the enemy will use that to try and confuse the other 5, make them feel like they made a mistake, they're going to be in trouble, they're going to be lost as well. Remember that Yahushua said that the coming of the Son of Man will be like the days of Lot. When Lot went away to the mountains, his wife was coming, but she did not reach the end. She was not saved. Even though she was coming with him, she didn't obey, and she became a pillar of salt. So that shows how 2 may go, but only 1 may reach the goal or salvation. And that is something that we need to keep in mind, that the chosen few who are going to flee to the mountains need to keep in mind. And we see it here. However, with most of them, Yahweh was not well pleased, for they were laid low in the wilderness. And these became examples for us. This is important. Why would Paul say all of this? Why would the Exodus be an example? Obviously, there are some who see it in just regular life, those examples, and there are some connections, of course. But Shaul is speaking about the second Exodus. And these became examples for us, so that we should not lust after evil as those indeed lusted. And do not become idolaters as some of them. Remember when they came out, they made the golden calf and they worshiped Moloch and Kium throughout the 40 years, as we see in the prophet Amos 5:26. And do not become idolaters as some of them, as it has been written, the people sat down to eat and to drink and stood up to play. Neither should we commit whoring as some of them did. And in one day, 23,000 fell. 23,000 fell. Neither let us try Mashiach, as some of them also tried and were destroyed by serpents. Right? They spoke against Yahweh and his chosen. So they started to be bitten by serpents. And that's why Yahweh told Moshe to put a serpent and a pole to represent how Mashiach, numerical value 358, would come to destroy the serpent. Nachash, numerical value 358, by being put on a pole, a tree, the cross. Neither let us try Mashiach, as some of them also tried and were destroyed by serpents. Neither grumble, as some of them also grumbled and were destroyed by the destroyer. The destroyer. Remember Abaddon, who is coming out of the abyss in the fifth trumpet, and then is getting a body to destroy everybody that he is allowed to, right? That will be Azazel getting into a body, same body in which the dragon will enter, because remember that the false Messiah has 3 parts, which is also represented by the 666 or 666. That is the body, the connection with Samael, the soul, that will be Azazel, and the spirit, that would be Halel, Lucifer. Remember that Lucifer is the prince of the air. Air connects to spirit. Abaddon, the destroyer, is in the abyss, in Sheol, which is where the souls of the dead go. So Azazel will come and enter that body as if it were the soul. And Samael is the inclination to evil that is in the flesh, so the body. And all this came upon them as examples, and they were written as a warning to us, on whom the ends of the ages have come. Very important. And obviously we are at the very end of the end, because it started since Mashiach came, but it is in our time that most of this will fulfill. And all this came upon them as examples. So Yahweh allowed everything and made everything happen so that we would know how to act and not act. And they were written as a warning to us, on whom the ends of the ages have come. So that he who thinks he stands, let him take heed lest he fall. An extremely important verse. So that he who thinks he stands, let him take heed lest he fall. Because there were many in the congregation of Israel who thought they were standing and ended up falling throughout the 40 years. The whole generation fell. Now, let's go to Matthew 24. This is a huge chapter. So Matthew 24. Yeah, let's read 15 and 16 first. And it says, so when you see the abomination that lays waste, right? The abomination of desolation, we just read about it in Daniel. Okay? When you see the abomination that lays waste, this is important. Well, for many reasons. One of them, remember that abomination in Hebrew is synonym of idol, because an idol is an abomination. All right? That's key. Lays waste, desolation, that is destruction. Remember then that it is an idol that is allowed to destroy. That is something new, because idols cannot do anything. Idols have eyes but cannot see, have ears but cannot hear, have hands but cannot touch, have legs but cannot walk. They are demons, pretty much, which are inside those idols. But in this case, there will be an idol that will be able to destroy anybody who doesn't worship him. And I guess that verse is, we're not going to see it, so let me just check it right now. Verse Revelation 13. When speaking of the false prophet, the second beast says, and he leads astray those dwelling on the earth because of those signs which he was given to do before the beast, right? The world leader. Sorry. So here it is talking about the second beast, the false prophet, who will do signs before the beast, saying to those dwelling on the earth to make an image of the beast who was wounded by the sword, yet lived. So here we have that the false prophet will get some people to make an image to the beast. Remember that image is that which we see. And when it comes to the fact that Yahweh made man in his image and likeness, Elohim made humans in his image and likeness. The image would be the body, the likeness, the soul, or even the spirit. But the image is the body, is that which we see. So to make an image to the beast would be to make a body to the beast, make a body for a spirit, certain spirit, who was wounded by the sword yet lived. It is talking about an empire, it's not talking about a person. And there was given to him to give spirit. So not only is an image, but now it receives spirit. Like in Genesis, when Elohim made the body from the soil, he formed the body and then gave it spirit, which entered through the nose and became a living nefesh, or a nefesh chaya, living soul. All right, so the body, then the spirit, that's a human. Now we have the image and then the spirit of the beast. So that is very important. And there was given to him to give spirit. So Yahweh will allow the second beast to give spirit to the image of the beast. Give spirit to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause to be killed as many as would not worship the image of the beast. So it will be able to speak, a thing that idols do not do. But we see in Genesis that not only Yahweh makes an image, gives his spirit, right after, Adam, the human, gives name to all the creatures. So he's given authority to speak and give a name to every creature. So the same process, but with the false Messiah. Remember that Adam, through whom death entered the world, was created on the sixth day. This will happen at the end of the sixth millennium. And one day is like 1,000 years. So that's why the enemy will make a body and give it spirit to be able to enter this world and claim to be the owner of it. Just like in the sixth day, Yahweh made a body, gave his spirit, and then told him, you are the owner of it, right? He gave us authority over this reality, over this world. However, by us eating the fruit of knowledge, we ended up giving that authority to the enemy and putting ourselves under it. So, and there was given to him to give spirit to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause to be killed. So he's not only able to speak, but also he's able to kill, to destroy. That's why he is the idol or abomination that causes desolation, lays waste. the image that kills, the idol that destroys, the abomination of desolation. I hope that's understood. Should both speak and cause to be killed, as many as would not worship the image of the beast. So anybody who does not want to worship that image will be killed by that image. That image will claim to be the Christ, and those who do not accept him as such will be destroyed for not taking the mark of the beast. That's why it says, and he causes all, both small and great, and rich and poor, and free and slave, to be given a mark upon their right hand or upon their foreheads. The chosen few have on their foreheads the name of the Father and the Son, and on their hands the commandments. They fulfill the commandments of Yahweh. But instead, the enemy will give them a mark, and that no one should be able to buy or sell except he that has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is the wisdom. He who has understanding, let him calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. So he will be a man. Even though he's the image of the beast, he will look like a man. And his number is 666, the numerical value of his name. Now, that is not the point at the moment, so I will go back to Matthew or Matthew. So when you see the abomination that lays waste, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, the fact that Yahushua says this is important. Spoken of by Daniel the prophet, because Daniel prophesied the coming of the abomination of desolation, and there was the fulfillment of an example that happened in the past, even before Mashiach came. Around 150 years before Mashiach came is when the first Hanukkah happened, when the Maccabees took over the temple back from the Greeks. And remember how their leader, who represented the beast and who was prophesied by Daniel, placed an idol of Zeus in the temple and sacrificed a pig for Zeus. Interestingly enough, pig in Latin is Zeus. So Jesus could be interpreted in Latin as pig of the earth. So the leader of the Greek Empire, representing the beast, sacrificed a pig in the temple. Now, remember that Yahushua explains that the temple is the body. So the temple represents the image of the beast that they will create, for they will make a human body. The pig sacrificed in the temple represents the spirit of Lucifer entering the body. And that is the abomination of desolation. When that happened during the time of the Maccabees, they called that sacrifice the abomination of desolation. That makes a lot of people think that the abomination of desolation of Daniel already happened. But when Mashiach comes and he says that this will happen, so as I was saying, there was an abomination of desolation in the time of the Greeks and the time of the Maccabees. But when Mashiach comes 150 years after that, he says, when you see the abomination that lays waste, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, he was pretty much telling them what happened with the Maccabees was not the abomination of desolation. What happened in that time was just a representation. And this that he's saying right here, in a way, manifested during the year 70, when Titus wanted to put his image in the temple and then destroy the whole thing. But like I said, that which happened in the year 70 was another example or representation of what is to happen in our time. So with that of the Maccabees and the year 70, we have the two examples that Yahweh normally gives for us to understand the fulfillment at the end, because that we need two witnesses to understand a truth. So two manifestations of an abomination of desolation that happened before Mashiach and after Mashiach, so that we understand what is going to happen in our time. So when you see the abomination that lays waste, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, meaning it had not happened, set up in the set apart place remember that the set apart place is the temple, and the temple is the body. Yahushua said, destroy the temple and I will raise it up in 3 days, because he was talking about his body. So after Mashiach came, everything that was literal became spiritual. The temple that was made of stones was just a representation of the temple, which is the body of humans. So when you see the abomination that lays waste spoken of by Daniel the prophet set up in the set apart place, so when the abomination enters a body, that is the false Messiah. And most likely, yeah, he will go to Jerusalem, and even perhaps there will be a temple and he will enter it. Yeah. But once the spirit enters the body, that's it. The fulfillment of this would happen at that time. Set up in the set apart place, he who reads, let him understand. This is key as well. Yahushua is saying that it is not as easy to understand. You need to read, and not only read, but understand that which you are reading. So it is not just an idol in the temple made of stone, because that would be very easy to understand, and there will be no need for this to be written. And I could say even this to be written. But the fact that Mashiach is saying, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, he who reads, let him understand. He's saying this is something spiritual. This is something that needs discernment. And after Mashiach came, like I said, the temple, we understand, is the body. And therefore, he who reads, let him understand, should interpret these words in a spiritual way and comprehend that that set apart place and that abomination are the image of the beast and the spirit that is given by the beast to enter that idol, that abomination, so that it can lay waste, so that it can destroy. So when you see the abomination that lays waste is spoken of by Daniel the prophet set up in the set apart place, he who reads, let him understand. Then let those who are in Yahudah flee to the mountains. Then let those who are in Yahudah flee to the mountains. Now, when it comes to this verse, you see how it is clear. When you see the abomination, flee. So that's important. In a nutshell, wherever you may be at, when you see that the false Messiah appears, flee. In the literal sense, of course, and once again, literal in the sense that it will be talking about the temple of stone. It will be talking about an image that was placed in that temple. And then when he says, let those who are in Yahudah flee to the mountains, obviously those who are in Yahudah. But remember, for instance, Yahudah is one tribe, Benjamin is another tribe, and the temple, the set apart place, was placed on the land of Benjamin. So only that is interesting, because it's like saying those who are here flee when this happens here in a different place, even though it's very close. Yeah. But my point is that we need to understand this in a spiritual sense, because in the literal already happened in the year 70. Those who were in the land of Yahudah, when they saw that Titus enter Jerusalem with an image, they said, okay, that's the abomination that is about to enter the set apart place. So let's go to the mountains. But in the spiritual sense, remember that Yahudah is a person from whom Mashiach came. Yahudah is a name that means those who worship Yahweh, those who praise Yahweh. So remember also that in Yahushua, there is no Greek nor Yahudi. We are one. Yahushua is a Yahudi. So when we are in Mashiach, we are Yahudim. We praise Yahweh. So when we understand these words in the spiritual sense for the end of times, because remember also that in the time of Mashiach, in the year 70, Israel, or at least great part of it, was in the land. But in our time, we have been scattered throughout all the lands, as he himself explains in the prophecies that we already saw in the Old Covenant, talking about how he will gather us from all the nations of the world. So by saying, when you see the abomination, that is the spirit that lays waste, that destroys, is spoken of by Daniel the prophet, false Messiah, not Daniel, but what he spoke about, set up in the set apart place, the body. he who reads, let him understand spiritually. Then let those who are praising Yahweh, let those who are Yahudim, let those who are in Mashiach flee to the mountains. Flee to the mountains. All right. So this 2 verses now, let's go a little bit down the line to verse 23. And here we are going to read several. So listen, if anyone then says to you, look, here is the Messiah, or there, do not believe. Remember that they will use a project called Blue Beam. It all points to them using that to project an hologram on the sky so that everybody will see what they will think is the coming of the Christ in the clouds coming for them. It is believed by some that they will put the image of each of the gods of the several religions, and then they will all morph into one image so that they can recognize that image of the beast, and that will be the image that he will end up appearing. So there will be a physical body, there will be a false Messiah in the flesh on earth, but I believe they will use the Project Blue Beam to project that image into the sky so that people believe that he's flying and everything. So it is said that they will use Project Blue Beam in the main cities of the world. So the image will be in several places at once. So it's interesting how it says, if they say, look, here it is, or there, do not believe. This that is about, well, let me see. No, not yet. Well, yeah. If anyone then says to you, look, here is the Messiah, or there, do not believe. So this is very clear. Do not believe it if somebody tells you, yo, the Messiah just came, let's go right now. Because it's not like that. It's not going to happen like that. Remember that Mashiach said that he saw Satan falling to earth like lightning. Lightning is like that, right? In a moment, in an instant. Satan falls like that, like lightning, in an instant. And that's why people will say, here it is, there it is, let's go. It just happened in a moment. But that's how Satan falls. That's the false Messiah appearing on earth. If anyone then says to you, look, here is the Messiah, or there, do not believe. For false messiahs and false prophets shall arise, and they shall show great signs and wonders so as to lead astray, if possible, even the chosen. So false messiahs and false prophets, that is interesting, because if it mentions that false messiahs and false prophets would appear, and be careful, that would mean because a real Messiah and a real prophet would manifest. If that were not the case, and I'm talking, of course, about the 2 witnesses, if that were not the case, then he would say, do not believe anybody, anywhere, anytime. But by saying that some false prophets and false messiahs will appear, is because there will be some, at least 2, who would be real, the 2 witnesses. For false messiahs and false prophets shall arise. Remember that also in the negative sense, mainly the beast and the false prophet. And they shall show great signs and wonders, the false prophet, as we saw in Thessalonians and we just saw in Revelation 13, so as to lead astray, if possible, even the chosen ones. Now, the fact that it says if possible means that it is impossible, thankfully. See, I have forewarned you. So remember that if the chosen ones would be so close to be led astray, imagine anybody else who is not chosen. See, I have forewarned you. Once again. So if they say to you, look, he is in the desert, do not go out. Or look, he is in the inner rooms, do not believe. Wherever he may appear, do not believe it. Because it will be a lie. It will be a deception prepared by the beast, by the enemy, to fool everyone. Listen, now this verse, we're going to have to see it somewhere else. Remember how I mentioned so many things I want to say. So just to show what I just mentioned, let's go to Luke 10, verse 18. It says, and he said to them, I saw Satan falling out of the heaven as lightning, in a moment, in an instant. However, isn't it a little bit strange that now we read, for as the lightning comes from the east and shines to the west, so also shall the coming of the Son of Adam be. Isn't that strange? Because Mashiach just told us in Luke that that's how Satan appears, like lightning, right? So we should be careful about this translation, which is, at least when it comes to this, is very common, sadly. But if we use logic, discernment given to us by the Most High, then look at this. As the, let's take away this ning, right? For as the light comes from the east and shines to the west. What is that light that comes from the east and shines to the west? The light of the sun. Because the light of lightning, wherever the lightning falls, it goes toward all sides, right? To all north, south, east, and west at the same time from that point. But the light that comes from the east and shines to the west, that is the light of the sun, which takes 12 hours. Unless you go with the sun, then it will be 24 hours of light, but you know what I mean. 12 hours, yet the day lasts 24 hours. And I'll explain that in just a moment. Just to leave this clear, let me go to Matthew 24:27 right here. If you go to Matthew 24, verse 27 in the concordance, 27, you see lightning right here. G796. We go to that word, astrape. The gleam of a lamp. Lightning, light, shining. So in this context, it makes no sense to write lightning, because lightning does not go from east to west. That is light, the light of the sun, right? It should be clear, I hope, because it's very important. And as you guys know, if we go to Malachi 4, which in Hebrew would be chapter 3, Malachi 4, we have that it says, but to you who fear my name, the Son of Righteousness shall arise with healing in his wings. Right? The chosen few will receive the wings of the eagle during the transformation, in which they all will receive healing of anything. Once he shall arise to bring righteousness as the sun coming from the east to the west. That's why Mashiach, the light of the world, came from the east. And the last, as the sun, the lamp, comes from the west to praise and teach the name of the Most High and the Son. And therefore, those who fear his name will receive salvation. And you shall go out and leap for joy like calves, not like sheep, but calves. Remember that the first came as a lamb, the last comes as a calf. Right? So this is important. The last comes as the Son of Righteousness. So now coming back here, this shouldn't say lightning, it should say light. Is that clear? So when we see these two together, for if they say to you, look, he's in the desert, do not go out, or look, he's in the inner rooms, do not believe. Like if they tell you in a hurry, yo, hurry up, he just came, we need to go right now. Don't believe it, because that's not how he's going to appear. That's how the dragon is going to appear, but not the Son of Man. For as the light comes from the east, first manifestation, and shines to the west, second manifestation, So also shall the coming of the son of Adam be, the son of man be. Yahushua is talking in the third person because he's talking about the last, the third person, right? Mashiach, Eliyahu, and the last, the son of Adam, the son of man. Not only that, like I mentioned, the light that comes from the east and shines to the west, that takes 12 hours. Then you have 12 hours of darkness, right? So we have 24 hours divided in 12 and 12. Just like there are 7 years divided in 3.5 and 3.5. So the two witnesses preach for 1,260 days. Those are the first 3.5 years. So the two witnesses preach during the first 3.5 years, and then they are killed, resurrected, go up, and then there are another 3.5 years. So the Son of Man comes as the Son of Righteousness during the first 3.5 years as the 12 hours of light. Once they are killed, the 12 hours of darkness begin. So 12 hours represented by the 3.5 years, and 12 hours represented by the other 3.5 years. So Yahushua is saying it's going to take a while. The coming of the Son of Man will take a while. 12 hours, 3.5 years. So it's not going to be in a moment. For wherever the dead body is, there the vultures shall be gathered together. This is a perfect translation, finally. There are some who, like most translations, if you check, well, when it comes to Matthew, most have dead body, which is a good translation because a lot, even the other good news, they just wrote body. So people believe it's talking about the congregation. They don't see the dead in it because obviously the congregation is not a dead body. For wherever the dead body is, there the vultures shall be gathered together. As we will see in Luke, here is referring to the many who will realize that the two witnesses were right and that the chosen few had the true doctrine, but they will realize it too late. So they will be captured by the beast to get the mark of the beast. They won't receive it because now they will understand, and they will be sent to be killed. And that's why the vultures will gather together where the dead body is of those who rejected the mark of the beast. Now, in the spiritual sense and in the context, if they say to you, look, here's in the desert, do not go, or look, he's in the inner rooms, do not believe. Why? Because those who go there will be like vultures gathering together around a dead body. Because if Mashiach is eternal life, the false Messiah is just a dead body. For remember, an idol is nothing. Even if that body will be able to speak, is death, because that's what it's bringing. That's why it's the abomination that lays waste. For wherever the dead body is, there the vultures shall be gathered together. But we're not vultures, and we're not dead. So we should not gather around the false Messiah. And immediately after the distress of those days, the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall not give its light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then the sign of the Son of Adam shall appear in the heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth shall mourn, and they shall see the Son of Adam coming on the clouds on the heaven with power and much steam. The clouds of the heaven with power and much steam. Remember how I mentioned, well, the harvest, the seventh trumpet, right after the death and resurrection of the two witnesses. So right after the death and resurrection of the two witnesses, the witness like Moshe and Eliyahu come for the harvest. And since I'm reading this, I'm going to have to go to Revelation 14 already, even though I wanted to go later on, but let's see. Okay, so he says, and the sign of the Son of Man shall appear in the heaven. So okay. I'm going to try and explain the timing with my hands, so hopefully you see the video. The two witnesses preach for 3.5 years. They die, resurrect, go up. The dragon comes down. Everybody's told, look, here it is in the desert. look, here it is in the inner room. The people shall flee, the chosen few, to the mountains, while people will go after the false Messiah. The few will go to the mountains away from the false Messiah. He will send a river to try and destroy the congregation. But after 7 days, during the 8th day, Shemini Atzeret, they will be transformed in the blink of an eye during the 7th trumpet. So we have the two witnesses dying, resurrecting, going up, the dragon coming down, going after the congregation, people going to seek his presence, the congregation going to the mountains, the army going after the congregation, and then the congregation is taken away when they are given the wings of the eagle. So in Matthew, we saw how Mashiach said, do not go. For whatever the dead body is there, the vultures shall be gathered together. And then the sign of the Son of Adam shall appear in the heaven. And then all the tribes of the earth shall mourn, and they shall see the Son of Adam coming on the clouds. If we go to Revelation 14, we see verse 14 that it says, and I looked and saw a white cloud, and sitting on the cloud was one like the Son of Adam, having on his head a golden crown in his hand, and in his hand a sharp sickle, because he comes to harvest the chosen few. Revelation 14. So look how it goes. Revelation 11, the two witnesses preach, die, and resurrect. Revelation 12, the second Exodus. Revelation 14, the harvest, which is when they are given the wings of the great eagle. So, and then the sign of the Son of Man shall appear in the heaven, that is during the harvest, and then all the tribes of the earth shall mourn, and they shall see the Son of Adam coming on the clouds of the heaven with power and much steam. And he shall send his messengers with a great sound of trumpet, right? That is the 7th trumpet, the last and final trumpet mentioned by Paul. And he shall send his messengers with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his chosen ones from the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. This is very important for so many reasons. One of which would be to answer anybody who claims that this is talking about just Yahudah. Because remember that it said, and I'm sure that everything will begin over there as it is starting in Israel. I mean, I don't doubt that everything will get worse over there before everywhere else. But my point here, let me see where it was. That it says, then let those who are in Yahudah flee to the mountains. Right here, the 16. Let those who are in Yahudah flee to the mountains. I already explained how in the spiritual, it is talking about the chosen few who praise Yahweh, who are Yahudim because they are one in Mashiach. Remember that Israel is a name that represents the many. Yahudah is a name that represents the few. And that is why when Yahushua continues, he says, and they shall gather together his chosen ones, the Yahudim, from the four winds, not from Yahudah, not from the land of Israel, from one end of the heavens to the other. So that shows that shows that the chosen ones are across the entire world. They are dispersed throughout the four winds, from one end of the heavens to the other. And learn this parable from the fig tree. When its branch has already become tender and puts forth leaves, you know that the summer is near. There are a lot of interpretations. Well, one main interpretation in Christianity regarding this, and the timing of it already passed because they were expecting on 2018 for everything to happen. For that was 70 years, a generation. But it's interesting. One thing is the fig tree represents Yahudah, the vine, Israel. It is one of the opinions in Judaism that the fig tree was the tree of knowledge and the vine was the tree of life. That's why it gives wine, which is like blood, and the life is in the blood. And the fig tree, because they made themselves aprons with fig leaves. So it is believed that only the tree that gave them the fruit gave them the leaves to cover themselves. Just like people try to cover themselves with knowledge or think they can be saved through knowledge. For instance, Gnosis, right? Gnosticism. So, and learn this parable from the fig tree. And I said all that because it's interesting. As I mentioned, the fig tree is the tree of knowledge. Adam and Eve ate of the tree of knowledge at the end of the 6th day. We are at the end of the 6th millennium, and people will eat for good or for evil, depending on their decision. And learn this parable from the fig tree when its branch has already become tender. Remember what Isaiah 11 says, that a branch would grow from its roots. The roots are Mashiach. The branch is the last. When a branch has already become tender and puts forth leaves, you know that the summer is near. So when the two witnesses begin to preach, you know the end is coming. So you also, when you see all these, know that he is near at the doors. When you see that, well, everything that is happening in Israel is a clear sign. Truly, I say to you, this generation shall by no means pass away until all this takes place. Our generation will not pass away until everything takes place. The heaven and the earth shall pass away, but my words shall by no means pass away. But concerning that day and the hour, no one knows, not even the messengers of the heavens, but my Father only. This is very important. So I'm saying, but concerning that day and the hour, no one knows, not even the messengers of the heavens, but my Father only. This is a verse that a lot of people use when they don't want to study the end times. It's a verse that many people use when you try to tell them about the end times. They say, no one knows, so you shouldn't speak about it. And that makes no sense. First of all, if we're going to take it as literal as they do, as they take this verse in the literal sense, by the letter, then one could say, if no one knows the day nor the hour, then one can know the week, one can know the month, one can know the year, right? If we're going to be literal about it. And just that is enough. So that shouldn't be an excuse not to study scriptures, not to study the end. That is important to understand. However, more than that, concerning the day and the hour, no one knows, not even the messengers of the heavens, by my Father only. This that I'm about to say is key. I explain it in the book, I think, very well, so eventually you will understand it even better, I hope. But hopefully you'll understand it right now. It says the day and the hour. Something that most or all didn't know back in the day was that there are different time zones. And depending where you are in the world, it is a different time for you than it is for me. For instance, what time is it where you're at, Omar?
It's 7:57. 7:57 where
Yeah.
I'm at.
All right. So 7:57 where he's at right now is 9:57 here where I'm at. So it's a different hour. Yet we are both hearing the same, reading the same at the same time. But it's not the same time though. You feel me? So when the harvest happens, which is what he was talking about right here on verse 31, right? When the Son of Man will come on a cloud and harvest the chosen few, that will be in an instant. For Corinthians, Thessalonians says it will be in a moment, the blink of an eye. So let's say the blink of an eye is now. It was 9:58 here, and it was 7:58 where Omar is. So what time was it? 9 or 7, right? Both. And we're just talking about two people in two different places. So when the harvest happens in the blink of an eye, from, as it also said here, from one end of the heavens to the other, it will be a different time for everybody. There are 9 hours from my place to Israel, 9 hours. So right now it's about to be 10 p.m. So 9 hours from 10 p.m. would be 7 a.m. in Israel. So if 10 p.m. is here and 7 a.m. in Israel, here would be the 14th of November. There it would be the 15th of November. So different hour, different day. So one cannot know the day nor the hour because it will be a different day and hour for every person depending on where they are at that instant when the blink of an eye happens. I hope that's understood because it's very important to understand how perfect this verse is. Concerning that day, like I said, it all points to Shemini Atzeret being that day, the 8th day after Sukkot. Let's say that Yahweh will take in account the time of Israel for that Sukkot, let's say. So in some places, some people might be gathered right before Shemini Atzeret. In some other places, they might be gathered right after Shemini Atzeret. Or Yahweh will do it in the middle of Shemini Atzeret, so everybody's gathering Shemini Atzeret, wherever they're at, but still would be different hours. And it also depends on how you count time, because in the true calendar, the day begins when the sun comes up, what we know now as 6 a.m. That's when the true day begins. But in the Greek calendar, the day begins at midnight. In the Jewish calendar, the day begins in the afternoon, 6 p.m. So since the enemy, as we saw in Daniel 7:25, would change the times, he changed calendars, he changed the way to count time and the days. So most people don't even know what day it is, even when they have a calendar. They don't know what time it is, even when they have a watch. So no one knows the day nor the hour because of the confusion in which this world lives. But also remember what Yahweh said in the book of Amos, the prophet Amos. In the book of Amos, chapter 3, for the sovereign Yahweh does no matter, he does nothing unless he reveals his secret to his servants, the prophets. And Yahweh doesn't contradict himself. Neither does the scripture, of course, because it's inspired by him, nor does he change, as we see in Malachi. Yahweh does not change. So the sovereign Yahweh does no matter unless he reveals his secret to his servants, the prophets. But we have here, but concerning that day and the hour, no one knows, not even the messengers, not even the malachim, the angels of the heavens, which means he's keeping it a secret from them, just like the good news themselves are not understood by them. He gave us more understanding than the angels, spiritual understanding through the Ruach HaKodesh given to us by Mashiach. Angels do not understand the good news, and they don't know this day. Why? Because the enemy is an angel, and he cannot know. But concerning that day and the hour, no one knows, not even the messengers of the heavens, but my Father only. Only the Father. Now, there are a couple of things here. Remember that the last, just like Mashiach came as the Son, the last comes as the Father. That's why Psalm 110, David says, Yahweh said to my sovereign, sit at my right hand until I place your enemies as your footstool. So Yahweh has to come to the earth to put the enemies of the Son, Mashiach, as his footstool, meaning on the earth. So the second manifestation, the last, is the Malach of Yahweh, who represents Yahweh himself. So he comes as the Father. So if he's the Father, he should know. But let's say we don't count that, and we only count this, my Father, as Yahweh himself, most set apart, the Most High, my Father only. Yet Amos once again tells us that he does nothing. He does no matter unless he reveals his secret to his servants, the prophets. So before he acts, before the Father acts, he will reveal what he knows to his servants, the prophets. And I'm sure there are many prophets in the world, well, maybe not many. There are prophets in the world because that's one of the 5 ministries. But remember that the 2 witnesses in Revelation 11 are called his 2 prophets. So if Yahweh does no matter without revealing it to his servants, the prophets, that means that Yahweh won't make this happen unless he reveals it to his witnesses, and therefore they will be able to testify of it to his people. Yet the many will most likely raise their voice and claim, no one knows the day nor the hour, so stop talking about it. I hope that's understood. It's very important. But concerning that day and the hour, no one knows, not even the messengers of the heavens, by my Father only. Another interpretation of this, remember what I mentioned regarding Mashiach coming as the groom? He comes as the groom for his bride, and his bride asks the Messiah, the Son, when are you coming for me? And the Messiah says, no one knows, only my Father, because he was the father who would tell his son, the house is ready, let's go get your bride. Just like when Abraham sent Eliezer with the Malach of Yahweh to bring Rivkah for Yitzhak. That is Yahweh sending the 2 witnesses to bring the congregation for Mashiach. So concerning that day and the hour, no one knows, not even the messengers of the heavens, by my Father only. And as the days of Noah, so also shall the coming of the son of Adam be. This is important. Most people only think of the conditions of the world in the days of Noah, but they don't account for Noah himself. There was a Noah. There was a person preaching that the end was coming, and the end came when he said, where his people got saved, him and 7, 8 of them, representing Shemini Atzeret, the 8th assembly. In the ark, the salvation that comes through Mashiach. Noah is the son of Adam, meaning Noah represents the son of Adam. Remember that Noah made a covenant. He received 7 commandments, and as a covenant, he received a bow in the heavens. The last comes with a bow to confirm the covenant, because he comes as in the days of Noah, himself being Noah. What was the other covenant? Moshe made that other covenant. The witness is the witness like Moshe. In fact, in Judaism, it is believed that Noah reincarnated as Moshe. So there are many connections between Noah and Moshe, which now we see as the son of Adam. And as the days of Noah, so also shall the coming of the son of Adam be. For as they were in the days before the flood, eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, which would be a saying until the day in which the last entered the heavens, when he resurrected. Everybody will continue eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage. They will continue their life as normal. They won't realize what is happening, because the last comes as a thief in the night. And they did not know until the flood came and took them all away. Until the flood came and took them all away. Remember what we read in Daniel 9 at the very end. It said, so, and the end of it, it is with a flood, and wastes are decreed and fighting until the end. And the end of it is with a flood, and they did not know until the flood came. Is that clear? That is Daniel 9 talking about that time. And the end of it is with a flood. For as they were in the days before the flood, he didn't drink and marry and given in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark, and they did not know until the flood came and took them all away. Also, what we read in Revelation 12. And out of his mouth the serpent spewed water like a river after the woman, to cause her to be swept away by the river, right? The flood. And that happens during the second Exodus, after the 2 witnesses have gone into heaven. That's why Noah entered into the ark, and they did not know until the flood came and took them all away. So also shall the coming of the son of Adam be. Then 2 shall be in the field, the one is taken and the one is left. This is important. So important for many reasons. First of all, Remember that these are verses, this verse right here and the other ones coming, are verses that Christians use to talk about the rapture, and they claim they are the ones being taken away, and that may be so, but not as they think, sadly. So please pay attention here. You see how it says, the flood came and took them all away. Those are the ones who died, right? The flood destroyed them. The flood came and took them all away. Now we have that it says, then two shall be in the field, then one is taken and the one is left. Taken how? By the flood, by the army sent by the serpent, the dragon, as we saw in Revelation 12. Is that clear? Took them all away. One will be taken. Plus, remember that Mashiach already said a while ago, those who are in Yehudah flee to the mountains. So we have three types of people, and we will see them in a better way, in a better light. Three types of people. The one who listens and obeys flees to the mountains. And then we have two. One is taken, the other one is left. If this fled, then they are fine because they obeyed. If these are left, then that means they are in the worst position because they are the opposite of those who obeyed. And then we have in the middle some who will be taken. And that is where it says, where you see the dead body, there the vultures will gather. Then two shall be in the field, right? Working. They will be working. That day you shouldn't go to work. That day you should go away. You should flee. Then two shall be in the field. The one is taken and the one is left. So they remember how in the past years, the past 3 years, there was something that happened in the world that I cannot speak about because they will block me as they have already and get rid of the channel as they have already. Something happened during those years in which they were forcing people to get something. And in some countries, they were going to your job and to your house. This is what will happen here. That happened those previous 3 years. From 2020. That was a preparation or a representation of this that will happen. Then two shall be in the field, the one is taken and the one is left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, one is taken and one is left. Once again, work, one is taken, one is left. So watch therefore, for you do not know what hour your sovereign is coming. What hour? Once again, you see how we had mentioned, if we were to see it in the literal sense, no one knows the day nor the hour. But now it says, you do not know what hour. Because that is the smallest time frame. Well, next to a day, that's 24 hours. An hour is just the 24th part of it. So like I said, it will be a different hour depending on where you are at that time. It will be a different hour if you are in America or in Europe or in wherever. Watch therefore, for you do not know what hour your sovereign is coming. And know this, that if the sovereign of the house, meaning the leader of this world, the God of this world, Satan, had known what hour the thief would come, reason why Yahweh didn't allow the angels to know, right? No one knows, nor the angels, but only the Father. And know this, that if the sovereign of the house, Satan, had known what hour the thief would come, because the last comes as a thief in the night. So if he comes as a thief, the Son of Man comes as a thief, he will be seen as evil, as wicked, for many reasons. And know this, that if the sovereign of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not allowed his house to be broken into. If Satan would have known when the two witnesses would be born, he would have made sure that they die. He would have killed them somehow, so that they don't enter the house. They don't enter this reality, this world. And know this, that if the sovereign of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not allow his house to be broken into. The same if he knew when the harvest will happen, he would do something to try and stop it, but he doesn't know. Because of this, be ready too, for the Son of Adam is coming at an hour when you do not expect him. This is very important. Christians do not expect anything, to be honest, sadly. We see in Revelation 11, there are two witnesses coming. A lot of people think that those two witnesses come until the last 3.5 years. A lot of people think that those witnesses are coming just for the Jewish people. So they are coming in a time in which they are not expected. Even more so if we talk about what Yahushua just mentioned here, because he was just mentioning the harvest. And that is after the two witnesses died and resurrect. So most people are not expecting anything, or at least not what they should be expecting. And those who are expecting the coming, once again, will be in different places of the world, and the hour therefore will be different, if we talk in the literal sense. Because of this, be ready too, for the Son of Adam is coming at an hour when you do not expect him. But mainly this thing, do not expect him. So when you least expect it, that's when it's going to manifest. And well, once again, I repeat, in Christianity, there are many, not that many, not as many as in Judaism. They have so many opinions, but in Christianity, there are like 3 or 4 opinions regarding what they call the second coming. And most of them are not really a coming, just a passing by. To some, the second coming is the war of Armageddon, which makes no sense for many reasons. We just saw the coming of the Son of Man in this chapter, and that is 3.5 years before the war of Armageddon. So only that would contradict that Christian interpretation. So my point is that sadly, most of the people who claim to believe in him are not expecting him, or at least now not as they should, and therefore he's coming when they do not expect him. Sadly, because of the wrong interpretations, the wrong doctrines throughout the apostasy. Now, let's go to Mark 13. So Mark 13, verse 13 and 14. Just to leave everything that we just read a little bit clearer. 13 and 14. And you shall be hated by all, not only by Jewish people, not only by Muslims, but also by Christians, also by your family, also by your loved ones, by your friends, etc. And you shall be hated by all because of my name. That is Yahushua speaking, not Yahweh, even though still we are hated by his name as well. But Yahweh is a most common name. A lot of people use that name or know it, but very few know the name of the Messiah. And regarding that, there are many people following many different names, as you guys know. But when you do have the real name of the Messiah and you live by it and live for it, then you start to see and feel hatred by those around you. Obviously, not those who also accept the name, but and you shall be hated by all because of my name. But he who shall have endured to the end, he shall be saved. He who shall have endured to the end, he shall be saved. So salvation is for those who endure till the end with his name. That's why Yahushua told us in Revelation 3 that we read already regarding the congregation of Philadelphia, because you have kept my word and have not denied my name, I will keep you from the hour of trial that is about to come upon those who dwell on the earth. So he who keeps the name of Mashiach will be hated, but through that name will be saved. All he has to do is endure till the end. And that is something interesting regarding this word right here. Because let me go to the blue letter Bible. Here we see 1 Kings 8:2. You see how it says, and all the men of Israel assembled themselves unto King Shlomo at the feast of the month of Etanim, right? Etanim, which is the 7th month. And all the men of Israel assembled themselves unto King Shlomo at the feast of in the month of Etanim. There are 4 feasts in the month of Etanim, the 7th month, which is called by the Jewish Tishri because of the names of the months that Israel got from Babylon after the exile. There are 4 feasts in that same month, but out of those 4, the 3rd one is the main one. Yahweh, of the 8 feasts that he gave us 3 that are the main: Matzot, Shavuot, and Sukkot. Matzot lasts 7 days, just like Sukkot on the other end. And in the middle, to get to Shavuot, we need to count 7 weeks. That's why it's called Shavuot, the Feast of Weeks. So 7 days, then we count 7 weeks, and then we have 7 days. And they are connected with the end, the completion of everything. Number 7, to enter the 7th millennium, the Shabbat, the day of Yahweh. So here in this story, we have that this was happening on Sukkot, on the Feast of Sukkot, which is the 15th of the 7th. And we will actually talk more about it next week. But I just want to show this. Eitanim, if we go to the concordance of this word, which is the name of the 7th month, meaning the name of the month in which the chosen few will be saved. The name of the month in which the chosen few must flee to the mountains, meaning the month in which the second Exodus will happen. Eitanim means enduring. The month of those who endure. Eitanim, enduring. And what did we just read? And you shall be hated by all because of my name, but he who shall have endured to the end, he shall be saved. Is as if it was saying, and you shall be hated by all because of my name, but he who reaches Eitanim, he shall be saved. The month of those who endure, because that is the month in which salvation will be manifested. I hope that is clear. And then it says, and when you see the abomination that lays waste, the abomination of desolation, is spoken of by Daniel the prophet, once again, set up where it should not be. Set up where it should not be. Satan should not be in the world, and even less in a human body. For that is the temple of Yahweh, not the temple of Satan. And when you see the abomination that lays waste, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, set up where it should not be, he who reads, let him understand. Once again, that is to show that it is key to understand this, and it is needed discernment, spiritual discernment to get it. So it's not just an idol in the temple, because that would be too simple as to say, he who reads, let him understand. Then let those who are in Yehudah flee to the mountains. Then let those who are Yahudim, let those who are praising Yahweh flee to the mountains. Let those who are in Yahushua HaMashiach and therefore are Yahudim flee to the mountains. Like I said, in the literal sense, in the year 70, they were in Yehudah and they needed to flee. But in our time, as we just saw in Matthew 24, the chosen few will be gathered from all the 4 corners of the earth. So it's not just in Yehudah, even though we are Yahudim. For Yehudah is a person. Israel is a people and a person. And then that name was given to a land, but that is secondary. And we know we were made from the soil. So there is a connection between a person and a land and the soil. Therefore, those who are in Yehudah, those who are Yahudim. Let me see if there are questions here. Says, question. I heard in a video about something in scripture that did not know about the punishment for the woman who slept with the fallen angels. For the women who slept with the fallen angels, which was that aside from giving fish characteristic sirens to the women, they were also for this given bird characteristic. Can you confirm what creature would those bird women be? Also, in a positive sense, I mentioned it because of the verse that was read regarding the woman congregation giving the wings of an eagle. The video also mentions a book named the Zohar. Can you explain? Well, if you want, Tony, you can send me the video and I could try and watch it and give you a better answer next week if I listen to what they are saying. It is possible that that is an opinion in Judaism. I haven't heard that opinion, to be honest. What we read in the book of Hanok regarding those women is that they died giving birth because they were giving birth to giants. So they died during childbirth. Sirens or mermaids are said to be the offspring of Lilith through or with Samael. So they are said to exist and be daughters of Lilith and to hate men and to have been created to destroy men. But I don't remember having seen that regarding the women who slept with angels. I would like to see it if you can send it to me. Plus the Zohar is a book with a lot of information that needs to be interpreted correctly through the New Covenant, through Mashiach, through the Ruach HaKodesh. Although those who read it don't believe in Mashiach and therefore have very wrong interpretations regarding the information within it. I do have it with me, the Zohar, so if you were to tell me what page or what chapter, I could check for it. But like I said, that opinion, haven't seen it, doesn't surprise me. But like I said, so far, what I have seen regarding those women, they died giving birth. Then it says, when he mentions the vulture that gather aside from the physical, can you explain what it would mean spiritually? I don't know if you asked the question before I explained it or after, but I did explain it in the sense that the vultures will gather where the dead body is. Yahushua was saying, when they tell you the Messiah is here or is there, do not go. So the false Messiah is like a dead body, just like an idol is a corpse. And those who gather around that dead body will be like vultures, birds that are impure, that eat death. So just like we eat life through Mashiach, the living lamb, they, by accepting the doctrine of the false Messiah, would be eating death. And that's why they will be like vultures around a dead body, the false Messiah. I hope that's clear, Tony. And like I said, please send me the message. I mean, a message with the video or the information of the Zohar so I can check it out right here. Let me see if there are questions on YouTube. Argentina is now 1. Peru 11. In California, I'm guessing 8. So you see how only like 4 people, 5 people that mentioned their hour, we are all in a very different hour. And if everything was to happen in a moment, everybody will be taken in a different hour, even though it was at the same time. So that is very important to understand. Then let those who are in Yahudah flee to the mountains. Like I said, I wanted to read another portion just to close this part, if you guys are willing. Let's go to Luke 17. Luke 17. Let's go to verse 26 through 37. So 11 more verses. Luke is the one who explains this in a better way. And when I mean better, I mean in a chronological order. Remember that he was a doctor. So he tried to put everything in the best order possible in order to understand and confirm that Yahushua is Hamashiach. So it's interesting that when it comes to this chapter, It is the one that is in a perfect order for us to understand what will happen in our time. So, verse 26. And as it came to be in the days of Noah, so also shall it be in the days of the son of Adam. I repeat, most people just think about what they were doing, not understanding that there was a Noah, and that Noah would be the son of Adam. So just like Noah preached for 120 years that an end was coming, the son of Adam, will preach for 1,260 days, saying that the end is coming. They were eating, they were drinking, they were marrying, they were given in marriage until the day that Noah went into the ark and the flood came and destroyed them all. I won't go to the same verses because we already read this and explained this. Noah went into the ark. That will manifest when the two witnesses die, resurrect, and go into heaven. And the flood came. That is when the beast will send his army to try and destroy the woman, but the woman will be taken to the proper place. So then the flood will destroy the many, those who are taken, and destroy them all. And likewise, as it came to be in the days of Lot. So just like in the days of Noah, so also in the days of Lot. Remember that in the days of Noah, the flood was worldwide. The destruction was complete, like throughout the whole world. In the days of Lot, it was only 5 cities. And it is said that Yahweh forgave one of those 5, so just ended up destroying 4. But the point is, only a part of the earth versus the whole earth. The time of Noah was through water. The time of Lot was using fire. Yahweh promised Noah that Yahweh wouldn't destroy the earth with water once again. This time it will be with fire. So it would be like the days of Noah, because it would be worldwide. It will be like the days of Lot, because it will be through fire. Hope that's understood. That's why I mentioned both. In the time of Noah, there was a man preaching, and then he entered the ark, and the flood came and took them all. The witness like Moshe will preach, then he will go into heaven, and then the flood of the beast will take them all. In the times of Lot, Lot represents the chosen few. His wife represents the many. We could even say the wife represents, well, I mentioned how the foolish virgins, but I'll just keep it simple. So Lot, the few, that's why he's a male, because the few are represented by virgin males in Revelation 7, because they are heads, they are authority, they are kings and priests, so represented by a male. The wife represents the many who will have to go through death. And remember that when Lot was in Sodom and Gomorrah, the fire didn't just stop falling on them. Actually, before that, there were 2 angels, meaning the 2 witnesses, who came and told him what was happening. And then they took him away. He fled to the mountains. And once he was fleeing, the fire started falling. That's when the wife looked back and turned into a pillar of salt. So in the story of Lot, we see another parallel. There are 2 witnesses that come to earth, announce what is going to happen. They announce the end to Lot, the chosen few, and even to his wife, the many. Lot obeys, so he is saved. The wife doesn't, so she is killed. And the fire comes down to the earth, to Sodom and Gomorrah, until they have fled to the mountains. So we see the action that needs to be, what the chosen few need to do. There's action by Lot, by the fact that he actually walks away to the mountains. That is something that the few need to do. There are 2 witnesses that preach before the fire comes, just like the 2 witnesses of Revelation 11. But it is key to understand that Lot didn't just disappear from Sodom and Gomorrah. He actually walked away. He fled to the mountains, and that is something that needs to be understood for the second Exodus. And likewise, as it came to be in the days of Lot, they were eating, they were drinking, they were buying, they were selling, they were planting, they were building. But on the day Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and sulfur from heaven and destroyed all. You see how it says, but on the day Lot went out, not when he disappeared, not when he was still in Sodom and Gomorrah. No, when he went out, the chosen few need to go out, need to go to the mountains, need to flee. Just like Lot listened to the two angels, the chosen few to the two witnesses. But on the day Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and sulfur from heaven and destroyed all. It shall be the same in the day the Son of Adam is revealed. It shall be the same in the day the Son of Adam is revealed. The Son of Adam, you see how it's being compared to Noah. And he will come. He won't be revealed because he will be like a thief in the night. But after he dies and resurrects, some will realize it. But even more when he manifests to gather the chosen few, then he will be revealed. That's why it happens during the Revelation, the book of Revelation. In that day, he who shall be on the housetop and his goods in the house, let him not come down to take them away. And likewise, the one who is in the field, let him not turn back. So he's saying, when everything goes down, when everything happens, because remember, I want to make this clear because of the verse in the middle. It was talking about Lot, right? It was talking that it would be like the days of Lot. But on the day Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and sulfur from heaven and destroyed all, right? So he's talking about Lot. Now let's jump to this one and see how it makes more sense. In that day, he who shall be on the housetop and his goods in the house, let him not come down to take them away. Just like Lot, he didn't stay at home or went back home. He just went away from the house. And likewise, the one who is in the field working, let him not turn back. So if you're at work, don't go back home. They will be waiting for you there. Just from work, go away to the wilderness. From the house, go away to the wilderness. Remember the wife of Lot. So you see how it continues with the same parallel, the same analogy of Lot and his wife going out of the house, but the wife not obeying. So in that day when you have to flee, he who shall be on the house top and his goods in the house, let him not come down and take them away. So do not take any goods with you. Yahweh will take care of you, just like he did during the 40 years. This time it won't be years, it will be days. Let him not come down and take them away. And likewise, the one who is in the field, let him not turn back. Let him not turn back. If you're at work, don't go back home. Wherever you're at, don't go back. That's why it says, remember the wife of Lot. That is very important. Whoever seeks to save his life shall lose it, right? Going back home, staying home, waiting for the rapture. Whoever seeks to save his life shall lose it. Those who get the mark of the beast, not to be killed, they will be condemned to eternity in the lake of fire. Whoever seeks to save his life shall lose it, and whoever loses his life shall preserve it. So he who leaves everything behind, his house, his work, he will preserve his life by doing that. Trusting Yahweh instead of this world, instead of the beast, instead of the false Messiah, instead of the mark of the beast. Whoever seeks to save his life shall lose it, just like Lot's wife. And whoever loses his life shall preserve it, like Lot. I say to you, in that night there shall be two in one bed. The one shall be taken and the other shall be left. So once again, he said in verse 31, if you are at home, go away. If you're at work, don't go home. Just go away to the wilderness. So we have once again three people. The one who obeys, he went away to the wilderness. Then he's fine. Now we have two. So that's why it says 34, I say to you, in that night there shall be two in one bed. The one shall be taken, the other shall be left. If we have three, this one obeyed and left, this one is left, then he's going to be in trouble because he did the opposite of the first. But then we have one in the middle who is taken away. I say to you, in that night there shall be two in one bed, the one shall be taken and the other shall be left. Two women shall be grinding together, the one shall be taken and the other shall be left. This is important. Once again, because even though Mashiach was talking even to that time, the year 70, he was prophesying about our time when his people will be dispersed throughout all the earth. And that's why he says, I said to you in that night, but then he says, two women shall be grinding together, meaning working. So in some places, it will be nighttime. In some other places, it will be daytime. When this happens in a moment, meaning in this case, it's talking about when the false Messiah manifests. When the false Messiah manifests and sends the flood to try and kill those who are Mashiachs, depending on where you are, it will be nighttime or daytime, which confirms what I was saying regarding no one knows the day nor the hour, because depending on where you are, what day and what hour it is. I say to you, in that night there shall be two in one bed, the one shall be taken and the other shall be left at night. Two women shall be grinding together during the day, the one shall be taken and the other shall be left. Two shall be in the field, the one shall be taken and the other shall be left. They will go everywhere, to houses, to work at night, during the daytime. And they, that is the disciples, the Talmidim, and they answering said to him, where, sovereign? I repeat, there are three, one obeyed, he's fine. So the disciples don't care to ask about that one because he will be fine, for he obeyed. The one who is left behind, he will be in the worst position because he did the opposite. But now the disciples ask, where are these that are taken? Where are they taken? Right? So, and they answering said to him, where, sovereign? And he said to them, this is the translation here, where the body is, there also the vultures shall be gathered together. And remember that we saw in Matthew 24:28, that body is dead body, a corpse. And we can confirm that. Before we close, let's go to Luke 17 right here. Sadly, in most translations, they don't have dead body, they don't have vultures. They translate it as body and eagles. So Christians end up with a doctrine saying that the eagles are them and the body is Mashiach, or that they are the body of Mashiach, and like eagles are gathering together because of what Revelation 12 says, that the congregation will be given the wings of the great eagle. Wherever the body is, the eagles will be gathered together. We see the concordance, and we have body is soma, which means a dead body or corpse. And then we have aetos, which means an eagle. Then it says, since eagles do not usually go in quest of carrion, this may be a vulture that resembles an eagle. So it is talking about vultures, because eagles do not behave like the context in which this word appears. So the translation, when it comes to this verse, is an issue in most translations, sadly. But you see it here, and you can confirm it in Matthew 24. And they answering said to him, where, sovereign? Where are they going to be taken? And I repeat this, Christians believe that when he says, two shall be in the field, one shall be taken, the other shall be left, they interpret from it that that is the rapture, that they will be taken to heaven. However, why did they get rid of the verse that says, flee to the mountains, flee to the wilderness? Yahushua was talking about somebody else before these two. There were three. I hope all of that is being understood so that when you speak with a Christian, you can explain to them the issue with this doctrine. They say one shall be taken, one shall be left. And they say left behind. They made a movie about it. And they are taken to heaven. But when the disciples ask, where are they taken? Yahushua tells them, where the corpse is, there also the vultures shall be gathered together. So what is that answer? What is that answer saying? Yahushua is saying, wherever they are killed, you will see the vultures gathering. So if you want to see or you want to go to where they are taken, just look at the sky for vultures, because there will be a lot of vultures where they will be killed. So in a few words, where are they taken? They're taken to be killed, not to heaven. Maybe a rapture, yes, but to be killed. I hope that is understood. And I repeat, we're going to leave it here tonight, and then we're going to close everything next week with the rest of the verse.